Okay, so I wanted to do this video for a while, start doing a chain of videos for like a 4Runner build for this one here. I wanted to do it for my last one, but I sold it. So I just bought this one not too long ago. It's a 3rd gen 96 4Runner. So let's do a quick walk around of everything. So like I said, it's a 96 Toyota 4Runner, 3rd gen. It's got a 3.4 liter 6-cylinder engine in it. I just picked it up a few months ago, not too bad. It was in pretty decent shape, just very dirty inside and out. Inside looked like Desert Storm. And I had a lot of like brush scratch down the side, a lot of brush scratch down the side. So, so far as what I did with the vehicle was I just took a cutting pad and this guy, dual action polisher, and just kind of used some of this rubbing compound here and went all over the vehicle and just ran that whole machine down and just buffed everything out, all the scratches and everything, and went ahead and used a clay bar after that and then polished it and got the paint back to life. You can see it's pretty shiny now and there's not very many scratches anymore. As far as the interior, it's an SR5 model, so it's pretty basic, not too much damage though, just a little bit here, a little there, but it's in real good condition. Cleaned it up real good, got everything looking sweet. But the reason I'm making this video now is because I'm in the middle of a job here. You can see the headliner's out, sunroof's out. My sunroof was not moving. So I did a lot of research online and I did a lot of looking around, and there's not a lot of info on these sunroofs here and it's frustrating. So I even looked through the Haynes manual. Nothing about a sunroof in there at all. So I figured I'd just tear it apart and figure out myself what's going on here. So sunroof, tore it out. Basic way that the sunroof works is you got these rails here and they fit inside of this rail here, and your window attaches to these holes here, and that's how it moves back and forth, right? Those rails are connected to this worm drive, which mine's not in too bad a shape. You can see it's starting to get kind of chewed up. It should have like a little kind of rubbery film over it here, and some of it doesn't, but the motor still catches on it and it still looks good. So I have a few diagrams here on how this should work that I got from, I believe it was on Yoda Tech on a build thread there, and it is the factory service manual. But the problem that I'm having is originally the sunroof would not even move. It wouldn't even move back and forth. The motor would click, the relay would click, everything sounded like it wanted to go, but it didn't want to go. So I originally pulled it apart and found that these worm cables were all gunked up with lithium grease, because they use a white lithium grease to keep it greased up. And that grease gets hard over time and real clayey. And you can't really see, there's a little bit here on the motor. In the corner there, you got some of this gunked up, hard packed white lithium grease that gets nasty. So those cables were stuck in the tubes, and it took me and my wife, she was pulling the cable, I was pulling the tube, and finally it came free. So what I did was I got that bucket there and I used this electric component cleaner and I mixed it with gunk, like super degreaser, that gunk that you get from AutoZone. And I mixed it in there and I coiled up these wormed cables and just let it sit for about 24 hours and get all the crud off of it. And I did the same thing. I used that same cocktail and sprayed it inside of these tubes and took them all apart out of here. If you take this off here, these two screws, you can take the tubes apart and just spray that lithium grease in there and get it all cleaned up. So I did that, and I got the motor and everything working. Everything was good. So at that point, I put everything back together, and it was great. And the sunroof would go back, and then it would come back forward, but it wouldn't pick up and run flush with the vehicle. It was staying tilted down. So now that's the issue that I'm having, and I'm trying to figure out why exactly it's not tilting back up. So I got it all torn apart, and whatever I come across, you guys will see. So basic maneuvering and moving of the sunroof. So like I said, those worm cables right there, they run through the rails right here, and that runs all the way up. So this will run in there, and then this piece will slide in right there like that, and it'll slide back and forth, right? So when the motor spins, because the motor connects right here, when the motor spins, the teeth on the motor grab the worm drive cables, and it'll push them. So your cable will come in here, right? And it'll come across, and then it'll go out over here, okay? So when the motor spins, it pulls that cable or pushes that cable, whichever direction, and it either pushes it out and pushes everything down the rail, or it pulls it in and pulls everything up into those tubes and hides them away, right? Another thing that I learned about the sunroof is the seal. So your seal here on your glass, because this is my glass, it's just sitting next to the hole. The seal on your glass right here is not meant to keep water and everything out. It's mainly just to keep debris out, you know, pine needles, dust, whatever. Your water is gonna get in there. If you have a sunroof leak and you notice that your liner starts getting like a nasty little, like starts looking like this basically, it's because you have these drain tubes, right? So if you look here, you got your rails, and then you have plastic here, like a plastic housing. And if you look to the corner there, there's a hole. Can't really see it. My finger can cover up the light. There's a hole there, right? And there's one in the front there, and one over there in that corner, and over in that corner. So on your four corners, you have these drain tubes that attach to those holes. And those are the drain tubes there in the four corners. And what those drain tubes do is when the water leaks through from your sunroof, it goes into that plastic tray, and then those drain tubes basically just allow the water to go out underneath the vehicle. And that's it. The headliner. How to take it down. It's fairly easy. So there's my headliner there, right? We got 4 clips here. I broke every single one of them, so I'm gonna have to buy new ones the first time I took it out. But I've been running around without those 4 clips, and it's not killing me. So headliner, it's pretty simple. This is all you got to take out right here. So here's the switch for the sunroof. Pretty easy. You just pop the lid open here, and there's 1 screw in there. And once you get the screw loose, you just slide it back, bring it down, slide it forward, and disconnect that little plug. So that's pretty easy. Dome light. So the dome light there in the middle of the vehicle, I put an LED in there. It's just brighter. There's 2 screws, 1, 2. Once you pop the cover off, screws are there. Unplug them and unplug the cannon that goes there. Done. Same thing for the rear light that's right here. 2 screws. Once you unplug it, or once you get the cover off, this cover here. Once you get the cover off, undo the 2 screws, pop it down, unplug the cannon that's there. Pretty simple. The visors, 2 screws that hold the visors in, and then you unclip it from, you know, a little clip that holds it up there, and then there's 1 screw that holds the clip for the visor. Pull it down, it's good to go. Same thing for the other visor, driver's side. This guy, your rear view mirror, there's 4 screws that hold it in place. To access those screws, you just have to pop this off, and it's very simple to pop off. If you notice in the back here, it's kind of where that scratch is. it kind of lips up a little bit. Just get a flathead in there and pop this piece down, and then get to the 4 screws, undo the screws, and once again another plug for your lights to power your lights. And then oh shit handles. So I got 3 of them. So there's one at the passenger rear door, one on the passenger side door, and then another one on the other passenger rear door on the driver's side. So I didn't need to take down the handles up front. Obviously they're still in there. And then you just pop the plastics here, pull them down, undo the clips all across the top, and then your whole headliner should just slide out the back, straight out the back, and then throw it off to the side and you're good to go. Oh, you also have to take off this piece here. It's a little liner insert that holds your liner to the sunroof. It's kind of like a trim. So that's pretty much it for taking down the headliner. This thing is, like I said, pretty simple. You got your worm drive, and it's gonna go up into that rail underneath there and all the way up and into the tube, right? So putting the tube back on, you can kind of see there it is, and it's just gonna slide right up into that rail there. So we can screw everything back together here, and that's what's gonna hold these tubes in place, so we can put the motor back on once we get the tubes in and get everything aligned on the rail side. You'll align the rail first, because once you put the motor in, the teeth of the motor are gonna come up in and hold the cable where it's at. You're not gonna be able to slide anything or move anything back and forth, because that motor is gonna hold it in place. The only way you're gonna be able to move anything is if you push the button on the sunroof, and it'll open and close it or tilt it up and down. All right, so now we're in the truck. We hooked up the relay for the sunroof, the motor for the sunroof, and the switch for the sunroof, right? So the way that we are going to check the alignment is, like I said, you got the little window there. You should be able to see the arrow. So our slide. All right, so this should work. All right, so you want to get it to where it's fully closed all the way, right?
Yeah.
Got my little helper right here. And then when you look inside the window there, you should see an arrow. It's hard to kind of see on the camera because there's greasy stuff in there because I greased it up, but there is an arrow in there, and it's pointing straight to where it needs to be. So that's exactly aligned where you want it. So you want it aligned with the window out, sunroof out, everything out, motor disconnected. You got it set up to where it's tilted. Tilted all the way up, and your slide is all the way forward. And you should have your arrow in there. Okay, so we got one side assembled, slid in the rails, everything's good. Your worm drive, you can see it down in there, is inside that groove, and like I said, it's gonna go up and in through the tube, and then out the other side. Okay, so this is where I'm getting confused with the alignment mark. So I can see that it has 3 tick marks right here, right? And then what looks to be possibly lithium grease there, maybe another mark or something, but there's no other identifying marks to align it with. And in the factory service manual, it does show that there's alignment marks to line it up with when you're looking straight down on it like this. So it's somewhat confusing, and that's the problem I'm having with the tilt at the very end. I think is my alignment here with the motor over here. Everything's not even. So I'm gonna reassemble this side here, get this one all hooked up and good to go, greased up, and then we'll put her in the truck. Okay, so we installed the sunroof and the glass back in, and it works. It's a success. So it tilts down, and it slides back. And not only that, it closes back. And it tilts back up, flush. Oh my God, it finally works. A little not flush. There we go. Flush. We got it. So my issue, just so you guys know, my alignment between the rails and the motor was just off, just a little bit. And what had happened was, it was tilted down, right? But I was aligning my motor to where it was sitting flush. So when it came all the way closed, it thought it was flush and up and tilted, but really it was down. So all I did with the motor was I took the alignment mark where it should be all the way up, and on here I just tilted it all the way down until it stopped, and then installed everything with the glass, and now it works beautifully. It even tilts all the way up like it should, like a moonroof. So I'm super pumped up. Everything works great. And now we just have to install the headliner and put all these drain tubes back on where they should be, and the rest of the hardware and bolts that hold it up in place. Right now I just have the 4 corners holding it in place to test it. So it worked. Pumped. I hope this helps for anybody that's having a sunroof issue.